Hey everyone, it's Rob Ryder on Thursday, the 8th of May, 2025. And today, Esquires lied to Mr. Pillow, Mike Lindell. Go figure. Well, can the real ID set him free? We're going to try to find that out. I am Rutluski Robert Allen, DOD ID number 12112800006, an indefinite enlistee in the Armed Forces of the United States. If you're one, don't let them ever take it away from you. Also known as Rob Ryder. Email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. And you can find my videos and such on X or YouTube at Rob Ryder with 3 B's and on Rumble with Rob Ryder with 2 B's. And so, what are we talking about? Well, My Pillow Incorporated and Mike Lindell have been sued by Dominion, 3 different Dominion to do with the voting. But when you scratch the surface of the case, you can find just all sorts of errors and omissions in their court case, starting mainly with the fact that they never recognized Mike Lindell in his full legal name, and they never used their full legal name. Well, then that's not legal, right? That's what you have a legal name for. If you're going to court, that's how you need to be identified. So if they're using something else, they're really not identifying you and they're not identifying themselves. Well, that should be a real problem. And of course, I've pointed this out time and time again, but Mike Lindell's a billionaire, so maybe it'll make a difference to him, and he's got the wherewithal to do something with it. Let's find out. Okay, so give me just a second. We'll load a few things up and see where we go. Just as soon as I find my button, where'd you go? Okay, hang on. And if you're on X, look me up on Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYDER, where I post a lot of things that, I don't have to do with a video. It just takes too long to do a video. But anyways, you may find it interesting, and that's the plug for that. Let's get on to Mike. Okay, so as I had pointed out before, right, that as part of the Real ID Act, now you have to have a identification with certain information on it that the federal government would recognize for you to get into an airplane. But it can be used for all sorts of things because it's got your full legal name on it. And again, so as far as I'm concerned, well, if I can't get in an airplane unless I have a real ID, then I shouldn't be able to get into a federal building unless I have a real ID because they're both run by the federal government. And what does that mean? Exactly. Well, let's look right here. Where is the full legal name? See, this is the deal. Because your ID has to have your full legal name, and your full legal name means an individual's first name, middle names, and last name or surname without use of initials or nicknames. So they can't call me Robert A. Rutluski. That's not my full legal name. Same with Mike Lindell or anyone else. And they can't use an initial in their name if they're supposed to use their full legal name. We're going to find out that the attorneys involved in Mike's case, they're all supposed to be using their full legal name. It's written in the paperwork. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is we're just going to look at some of the documents that are involved in this court case, which is 1:21-CB-00445 CJN in the District of Columbia. This is the civil cover sheet. Every case is supposed to have one. Right, so this is where the Esquires start to get involved because, U.S. Dominion can't fill this out, so who did it for them? So anyways, you got plaintiffs, right? The U.S. Dominion, Dominion Voting Systems, Inc., and Dominion Voting System Corporation. Now, is that 3 different, as it turns out, that's 3 different plaintiffs, one of which is from Canada, but are they or are they not? Because they don't give any EIN numbers to prove that they actually exist, right? Because at some point, if Mike loses, he's supposed to pay these people. And if that's the case, well, you give somebody more than $600, you got to have their EIN number. So I'd like to make sure that they really exist instead of just having a name on there and because some Esquire said that this is the plaintiff, that makes them the plaintiff. Because we know that Esquires lie, cheat, and steal. It's in their nature. And so we don't know what their EIN is. And if we read this closely, it says county of residence, a first listed plaintiff. And they put in these eights. Okay. Then it says except in U.S. plaintiff cases. Well, if U.S. Dominion Inc. is a U.S. plaintiff, right, that they're from the United States, then this should have been left blank. But that's not what they did. And then they came over here for defendants, and it's My Pillow Inc. I don't know if that's the proper name of the business or not. That would be in the corporate records. But I know that Michael J. Lindell is not Michael Lindell's full legal name because you can't have a middle initial. We just saw that. So they're trying a fiction. Right? So, you're a John Doe, Mike, when you go to court. And then you come down to this. Now, see, this one had a B, and this one doesn't have a B. And this is county of resident, first listed defendant in U.S. plaintiff cases only. So if U.S. Dominion Inc. is a U.S. plaintiff, then here should have been listed the county where My Pillow is located at, which is, probably someplace in Minnesota. But that's not what they did. They put 888 in both of them. So this is already wrong because either one should be blank or the other one should be blank. Right? You only put something in if the plaintiff is a U.S. plaintiff, you'd fill this in. If not a U.S. plaintiff, you'd fill this in. But because they claim to be a U.S. plaintiff, this should have been left blank. And this side over here should have had the actual name of the county in Minnesota where My Pillow Inc. is. So you can see we didn't do that. Well, then we come down and we look at the attorneys that are responsible for filling this out because, they're the ones doing the prosecuting. And we see that some yahoos using a middle initial. Well, we're going to look at some paperwork for the bar of Virginia here in a bit. And you'll find out when they fill it out, they have to put their full legal name. It says on there, full legal name. So Thomas A. Clare does not exist, and Megan L. Meyer does not exist. And I don't know if Dustin Bush exists or not. It depends on if there's another name in between there. Okay, so why did they go to D.C.? Well, they're saying diversity indicates citizenship of the parties in number 3. Incorporated in principal place of business in another state. They both did it, which means then that the plaintiff is a U.S. plaintiff. And in that case, this should have been left blank. And this one here should have had the county in Minnesota. We didn't do that. Assault, libel, slander. Right? So they're getting it for personal injury, malpractice. Isn't that interesting? Go down further and we see, well, what's the origins? Original proceeding, yeah. Cause of action. 28 U.S.C. 1332. Defamation per se. Well, no, it's not defamation per se. 28 U.S.C. 1332 is diversity of citizenship. All right, this is from the House Gov website, and it says Title 28 U.S.C. 1332, diversity of citizenship. Which diversity of citizenship isn't a cause of action. It may give a court jurisdiction, but it's not the cause of action. And then they go defamation per se, kind of like maybe, and then they give an MSA section. So this section here, this is really some Minnesota law for deceptive trade practices. So they're taken to the federal court for claiming that it's a state violation. I don't believe you can do that, can you? Requested in complaint. Right? What's the demand? Well, how about 1,303,470,000? Why not? Let's just pick a number. Okay. Check yes if demand is incomplete. Okay. Check yes. All right. Related cases, if any. Yes. If yes, please complete related case form. Okay, well, they're not in this particular case, so I don't know that they exist or not, but they say that there are some. And then it was signed by an attorney of record with some dude with a middle initial, PC, right? That's not his signature. I mean, your signature doesn't include comma PC. Your signature is for your name, and it's not his full legal name. I'm not saying your signature has to be your full legal. I guess I am, right? Your mark doesn't need to be your full legal name, but your signature needs to be your full legal name. That's why they used to put an X. In fact, they do this on the forms for the military when you, as in the list D, when you fill out your DD Form 4 and they have you sign, they actually put an X first and they have you put your name behind, like, they're indicating that's your mark. So here we go. County of residence, a first listed plaintiff. Use these if, right? And they put 888. So if the plaintiff is a resident of the United States but not Washington, D.C., 999, the plaintiff is outside the United States. Okay, so I guess I could put the 888 here, but they had to put over here what the Mike's or My Pillow's residence was. Okay, so, there's already things that look like they're wrong with that. That's just the civil cover sheet. Let's look at the complaint. So now we go to the complaint for this case in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Well, hang on. There is no court named in the, right? The thing at the top of the case is supposed to, at the top of the document, is supposed to be the name of the court. It's not in the. I mean, as an example, this is the form you're supposed to use for appearance of counsel, right? And it's the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Not in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. So this form isn't even in the court, right? There's no case number. And now we have these same alleged plaintiffs, but now they're care of this Cogency Global. Well, does that make Cogency Global the plaintiff? Because how can you be care of somebody as part of the plaintiffs? It just doesn't make any sense. We continue on. We got My Pillow Inc. and the fictitious name, Mike J. Lindell, at some address. They share the same address. Now, I don't believe that to be true. They don't have the same address. But, there's an address. So this is where, at some point, hey, Mike, what's going on? You'd have to, fess up some information. And then quickly go through, we got these parties. We got U.S. Dominion, that says it's for-profit Delaware Corp. Okay, then we got Dominion Voting Systems. They say they're a for-profit Delaware Corp. Then we got Dominion Voting Systems Corporation, which says it's a Ontario Corporation. So it's a foreign one. Then we got My Pillow Inc. I don't know if that's the proper name or not, but I know that Michael J. Lindell is not the proper name. He's not the founder and CEO of My Pillow. Right? Michael, whoever J is, I don't know, John, Joe, Joseph, whatever it is, right? That full legal name. There it is, right? The court has subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1332 because complete diversity of citizenship. So it's not a cause of action. It's a reason for jurisdiction. And we're really not here to read all the things that they said he did. What we want to know is, well, who said it. So plaintiff demand a trial by jury on all claims and issues so triable. Who do we got now? We got these middle initial Esquires who claim to be representing this Claire Locke LLP, which apparently is supposed to be a law firm. Otherwise, why would they be listed as an attorney, right? Attorneys for plaintiff. Claire Locke LLP. So you look at this and you say, okay, well, then these are the plaintiffs, and this is the attorney, right? Because there's no place on here that the plaintiff signed. Plaintiff demands. Well, where? Plaintiff ain't demanded anything yet. This is all attorneys who say that they're representing plaintiffs, who we don't even know who they are because we don't know what their EIN number is. And whoever they are, they're care of Cogency Global. Who the hell are they, and where did they get involved in this? All sorts of things are wrong. Jeepers. Okay, and then real quickly on these appearance of counsels, right? So this is who they say that the case is against, and this person is authorized to practice court. shall appear in the case as counsel for these the plaintiffs basically, but it's somebody with the middle initial name. They don't exist. I'm sorry, can't do it. All right, here's another one. This guy says he's doing My Pillow, so we got My Pillow. He's not representing Mike Lindell, Nathan Lewin. Okay, so these are on an official form, right? AO form from the Administrative Office of Courts. Well, how come these aren't? So here's two more, right? Now we got some more notice of entry of appearance, and these are the in the ones. So, again, this is just a fictitious piece of paper from the beginning. But this guy says that he's representing admitted hereby appearance. He's going to defend My Pillow 8. Okay, and then we had one other one, which is another in the. So this is another fable, right? For Douglas A. Fable Daniels, for a defendant that doesn't exist. You got John Doe watching John Doe. And Douglas, he's from Houston, Texas. If we were to go look at the State Bar website and look up Douglas Daniels, I should probably do it. Let me hang on a minute. We would find out he calls himself Mr. Douglas A. Doug Daniels on the website for the State Bar of Texas, and it says eligible to practice in Texas. Well, in Texas, if you're eligible to practice, it means that you've met all the requirements and you're willing to take the oath to be admitted to practice. But you're not admitted to practice until you take the oath, and then you're no longer eligible to practice. You're admitted to practice. So this dude has not taken the oath to be admitted to practice in Texas. He's a fucking liar. He's not an attorney. He's an esquire, which by definition is a crown agent. He's working for the crown, confiscating the property of the belligerents from the Revolutionary War. So we got somebody who doesn't exist saying they're going to represent somebody who doesn't exist in a court that doesn't exist against plaintiffs that apparently don't exist because they're care of some other place that we've not heard of before. And this is what we call justice in America. How you like that, Mike? I think you should talk to Donald John Trump about this myself. Just so I've shown it in this video. So here's our plaintiffs. And they're going to want Mike to pay $1.3 billion. Well, that's more than $600. So, Mike, you need to add their EIN number, which means you needed to get a copy of this thing right here from them filled out where the name of the entity. Now, this is them filling this out and giving it back to you, or you'd be the requester. That explains who they are and that they've been registered and they got their EIN number and that they're tax exempt and they got to put their exemption code. Which, go down to page 3. Right? Who's exempt? Well, corporations are not exempt from backup withholding for payments made in settlement of payment card third-party network transactions. Corporations are not exempt for backup withholding with respect to attorney's fees for gross proceedings paid to attorneys, so forth and so on. So, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But if they are, they had to fill this out and say they're exempt, because if they're not exempt, then you have to, the one asking for or the one going to pay, the payee, have to withhold 24% for withholding tax. And if you don't, then you're the tax evader. Right? So it's really important they give you this. And of course, no one ever gets it, and they don't have one, and, whatever their reason is, ever writes a check, but nobody gets the EIN number to make sure that the people are who they say they are, and that they're exempt. And if they're not exempt, you didn't hold back 24%, you're the tax evader. Welcome to America. Let's look at some more embarrassingly wrong paperwork. Well, this is supposed to be the summons, right? This is a summons document. Again, this is an official document used by the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. I guess we got 3 plaintiffs, but we don't know. Again, we don't have the EIN number. Don't know. Not using Mike's full legal name. Well, look, there's no civil action number. Right there, this is blank. I mean, most of this writing in red, I mean, that's all mine. So, that was blank. There was nothing there. Then to the defendant. Well, is that Mike's address? I don't believe that it is, but I know it's not his full legal name. And this is supposed to be the answer or motion must be certain plaintiff attorney whose name and address are. Right, this Thomas A. Clare, PC. Okay, so we're supposed to send it back to. But there's no seal on it, and there's not been signed. And hey, it's not been served. And yet this is the court copy of the document, which proves it ain't been done. It's, this is the court stuff. Here's Rule 4 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure that says what needs to be on a summons, right? And you can see right here, signed by the clerk, bear the seal of the court. No, that shit's on there. And yet, the Esquire that's supposed to be representing Mike let this stuff go through and didn't question it. Just let's go to court. Let's bill up some hours. I wonder how many attorneys are involved in this case. Right? The whole idea of the court system is to bring business to the court. And so, they're piling on. So, if you had a Pacer account, you could do this, but a lot of times you can find this stuff on some of these other court serve website or, just different websites where you can find the documents or the docket information for a court case. So in this particular case, right, they got these parties. And so it lists all the names of the parties. And I want you to look, there's 54 pages of parties. And they're all Esquires, right, represented by. You got one name and represented by. Esquire, 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 Esquire. Man, they're all feeding on this thing. Look at that. Esquire, Esquire, more Esquires. We're all over the place. Hey, we got some more from Texas. We should be checking them out. Make sure they got the full legal name. All right, now we got another one. Well, they got their own representatives. It just goes on and on and on. So, it's a feeding trough for Esquires. Okay, so back to this complaint real quick. So this is who signs, all right? Thomas A. Clare, which apparently has something to do with Clare Lock LLP. So I'm going to say, well, these attorneys that are listed here for the DC bar number are all employees of Clare Lock LLP, which is in Alexandria, Virginia. So these are all Virginia attorneys. They don't have to be licensed in Virginia. And so as an example, we go to the Virginia State Bar, we look up Virginia lawyer search, you put in Clare, the last name of the first listed attorney. What did I say? Thomas A. Clare. Okay, put in Clare, got a list of them here. Well, no, it's Thomas Arthur Clare. That's the name that's on the state bar. You've not used the name of the state bar. So, the guy that's representing the plaintiff isn't the same guy that's in the state bar. So while these are DC bar numbers, which is, the District of Columbia bar, it's not the same bar as Virginia. They first were supposed to be licensed in Virginia, as we'll see, and they had to use their full legal name. And so to get, registered in the Virginia State Bar, you got to done the official registration form, which says every person licensed by Virginia Board of Bar Examiners is required to register with the Virginia State Bar. Please complete, save as PDF, naming convention, first name, last name, date of licensing, so forth and so on. Let's go to this first page real quick. Well, okay. So, first name, middle name, last name. Well, unless you got a middle initial for a name, you got to put your name, which the guy did, right? He's listed properly. Here, I mean, that's the way it should be. Michael, Where was he? Thomas Arthur Clare. That isn't the way he put his name on the document that he's using to sue Mike Lindell under. So anyways, this is kind of after the fact. Every person licensed by Virginia Board of Bar Examiners must register. Well, what did you have to do to get licensed first? Well, first thing I do is application for examination from the Virginia Board of Bar Examiners. And what is this going to tell us? It's going to say, well, you got to use your full legal name. Look at that. You must apply in your full legal name. What does that mean? Well, you put a title, you put your first name, your middle name, your last name. Your full legal name must be the exact name and spelling as listed on your birth certificate, name change order, adoption decree, naturalization, immigration document. Initials are not acceptable unless initials are part of your full legal name. Busted. Right? So they filled this out properly because it looks like it's properly done in the Virginia board, but that's not the name they're using. So that's not the name that's licensed. Okay, and they do a character fitness update form, all sorts of things they got to do. And then as we saw, they got a law firm that says that they're involved, right? Clare Locke LLP. Well, even the frickin' LLP had to register. Application for certificate of registration for registered limited liability partnership. So one of these would have had to been filled out. So there's lots of paper you can go look at, Mike, to make sure these people are who they say they are, but you can already see that they're not. It's a simulated legal process under color of law, which violates your civil rights. Or we could say it violates the 14th Amendment, so now it's unconstitutional, and they're really warring with the Constitution, and now it's a military crime, which is what I think you should be charging them with. Make it military. So that's really all I had to show. Just, Mike Lindell, they're not charging you. I don't know that My Pillow, Inc. is the proper name of your business or not, but you do. And there's no civil action. So how are you supposed to answer? How are you supposed to send these people an answer to a, what do we call it down here? A cause of action when there's no civil action number. It's never been entered into the court. There's nothing there. There's no seal, not been signed, not been served. And yet your Esquire took you to court with them anyways and's taking your money, and he's feeding the pig trough of Esquires with God knows 58 pages of them, all feeding off of Mike Lindell. There's something wrong with our legal system, I would say. And so I hope you do something about it, Mike. I hope you get in contact with me because I could tell you a lot more. But let's just leave it here for now and see what happens. So, okay, now this isn't just the Mike Lindell. This is anybody. They're doing this to everybody who goes to court. It's the same fucking shit for everybody. So, if you know anybody in court, you start looking at the documents. You're going to find the same thing as what I'm showing you here. And this is the document that's been filed in the case because it's been filed in the case. I got it off a pacer. And it shows there's been no civil action. It shows there's no seal. It shows it's not been signed. It shows it's not been served. But it's been going on for 4 years now, and Mike is still in court. So it's a hell of a system they got. And it's just not the Esquire sitting at the table. The freaking judge is involved. The clerk's involved. It's, the bar is a union. This is the union taking care of itself. So, okay, I'm going to leave it there. Y'all have a great day, and I hope you found it interesting and possibly useful. If you know Mike Lindell, please get it to him. And Mike's got any questions, I'm easy to find. Okay, have a great day.